everyone, welcome to my second video in my mini series about how to take Google Slides and make them interactive. In my first video, I showed you how you could use them in order to make a digital worksheet for your students to complete, whether it's in person or at home. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can use Google Slides to create a simple drag and drop activity. I've been using drag and drop activities in place of activities that I would have done as cut and paste activities within the classroom. So let's jump in. So once I open Google Slides, it brings me to a brand new Google Slide presentation. And so presentation, the style of a Google Slide is not quite what I'm looking for when I'm doing any sort of interactive Google Slide sheet. I tend to like to resize the blank Google Slide to fit more like a piece of paper, so in an 8.5 by 11 size. So what I want to do in order to resize my slide is I first can close out of the themes. I don't want to use a theme. I also like to delete the text boxes that come standard on a slide just because I don't use them. I like to start with a blank canvas. So to resize, I go up to File. I'm going to scroll down to Page Setup. And right now it's on widescreen. So this is what a normal presentation style slide will look like. I want to put it on custom. So I get to dictate what size in inches my page will be. So I want to put on custom, and then I'll put in 8.5 by 11 inches. You can also custom centimeters, points, pixels. I use inches because I know that a standard piece of paper is 8.5 by 11 inches. And I'm going to hit apply. And I like to use this size just because in a lot of activities, I will also print it on a piece of paper, and this will ensure that everything will fit on my page. All right, so I want to make a little drag and drop activity where students are going to label the parts of a cell. So I have my blank canvas. So what I need to do is go and get an image of a cell that I want the students to use to label. So I can do a quick Google search for blank cell diagram. And I see that there's plenty of cell diagrams. I'll go to images. I want to make sure that I have one that's not very labeled. And this one looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to right click and copy and paste it onto my page. So I can resize this to fit my page better. So now I have the image on the page. I want to leave room at the top for directions, as well as room at the bottom, maybe for a question. So depending on what other information you have on the page, you can resize your image that you're putting here if you need to. All right, so I want to put some sort of title up at the top. So I'm going to use a text box and put it up at the top. So I'll say cell diagram. So I like to use Century Gothic. I like it to be bold, and I want to make it really big. So maybe just type in 40. And I can center this depending on what I'm doing. Sometimes I like to keep it left justified, but I don't like it way at the edge, so I can resize it so it's just in a little bit. Because again, sometimes I print things, so I don't want it to be right at the edge. So depending on what I'm doing, I will put things in different places. I want to add, a text box for directions. So underneath I can add a text box and say, label the cell diagram correctly using the text boxes on the side. So I will show you what I mean by that in a minute. So I want to put my directions there in so I want to go ahead and add a title to this so students know what they're doing. So I want to add a text box up here at the top. And we're going to call this cell diagram. Keep it short and simple. I like to use kind of bigger fonts for titles of things. So I really like the font Luckiest Guy. I can change the font to be a lot bigger, so maybe 45. And now I have a title. I want to then go ahead and add directions. So I'm going to wait for the directions so they make a little bit more sense once we have this set up. So the way you do any sort of drag and drop is you add text boxes that the students are going to move on the page to wherever they need to be. So I have a cell diagram here. I need to make text boxes for each of the different labels within this diagram. And so I like to put my drag and drop pieces off on the side. So most people don't realize that this whole area in gray around your slide is usable space. So I'm going to, start typing my labels. So the first label we have is the nucleus. I want this to be in Century Gothic. I want it to be bold. I want to center it on my label. And I'll probably use a bigger font like size 18. And I don't need the box to be so wide. And right now, if I were to drag and drop this on the page, there's no box around the label and there's no color to it. So I like to add color so students know that these are little tiles that they can move. So, I'll just pick any color I like. I also like to outline the boxes, so that way, again, it looks more of like a piece that they need to move. So using the line tool, I say I want a black outline, and then using the tool right next to it, I can change the thickness of that border. So I'm going to make it a lot thicker, like a 3-point. So now if I click off of this, you can see this looks like a little box that students will then be able to drag and drop wherever they need it to go. So this one would probably go down here, right? And students can then move it wherever it needs to go. So I'm going to repeat this process. And now that I have my box set up, I can just click on the box. You can right click and do copy, or you can use the keyboard command, which I'm using a Mac, which I use the command button and the C button at the same time, and it will copy this entire box. If you're on a PC, you can use the control button and C as well. So I like to use keyboard shortcuts. They make things a lot easier for me. So I'm going to do Command C to copy. And then if I click off of it and do Command V, I paste it. And so you can see I have the exact same box, exact same formatting. And now all I have to do is change what is inside of the box. So I would do mitochondria next. And I would keep repeating this to get all my labels that I would need for this particular diagram. So this one is a lot longer. So now the box ends up being wider. And if you don't like that, you can just go ahead, highlight your text and shrink it so that it fits in the one line and it has the same size as all your other labels. So now when students go to do this, they just click on a box and they slide it over wherever they need it to go. But the problem becomes the way we have this set up, that the image of your cell, students can move it. And so if they're clicking and then they need to move it, they actually click this and move it, it can become a nightmare. So we want to lock this background cell image. So that way the students can't remove it or move it out wherever it shouldn't be. So I would continue adding more tiles for all of the labels that students need to have on this particular diagram. So now I'm going to add the directions that students would follow in order to complete this. So I want to change my font size down to about a 20. I like the directions to be in Century Gothic and bolded. I'm going to say directions, drag and drop the blue boxes onto the cell diagram in the correct location. So now I have the directions for what the students are doing. They know that they will be dragging these blue boxes over onto the cell diagram. So what would potentially become a problem is as students are dragging and dropping these tiles, they might accidentally move this image, they might move the title and the directions, and we don't want that to happen. So we need to lock this diagram, the actual image of the cell as well as the directions so students are not changing them. So one way that a lot of people will show you how to lock things in Google Slides, because unfortunately right now Google Slides doesn't have a locking mechanism, is that you download an image of your whole slide and then upload that image as a background. This works, but I find problems with this in that I downloaded the background image and then I deleted that background to then upload the image. And now if I made a mistake or I want to change something, I would have to start over. And I don't like that. I don't want to have to start over. I want to be as efficient as possible with making these backgrounds. So I tried out the whole downloading the background as an image, but that did not work for me. So what I found is that there's a slight workaround in Google Slides where you can use their Edit Master option in order to make backgrounds that are locked. So I'll show you what that is. So when you go up here to the toolbar where it says Slide, down here at the bottom, there's this button that says Edit Master. So within Google Slides, you can save templates as a master template. And that way you can use that theme in later presentations and that same template or background is used in other presentations. Makes it really easy. But we can use this in our individual presentation within this one Google Slide document to use it as background templates. All right, so I'm going to click Edit Master. And these are the text boxes you see when you open up a new Google Slide. And these are the templates that you can use for future presentations to keep the same style consistent across many different presentations. But we're going to use it as a way to lock the background of this particular presentation. So I'm just going to use the first layout here, the first slide layout, and I'm just going to delete these boxes. Right? We don't need them. So what I can do is take the background pieces that I want to lock and paste them on this blank document. So to go back to my slide to copy them, I'm just going to click over in the thumbnail over here on the side, and it brings me back out of the Edit Master. So I'm going to click and highlight, so click and drag a box around everything I want to put locked, and I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to use Command C. Now this will copy it. I actually would like to cut and paste it versus just copy and paste it so it goes away and it doesn't show up. So I'm going to do actually Command X. So now I've cut it. So if I go back to Slide, Edit Master, I have that blank slide template. And I'm going to paste those items that I cut directly on here. And when you paste them, it pastes them in the exact same locations that they were on the previous page. So now this acts as a template, as a background that the students will not be able to touch and edit unless they know about this Edit Master trick, which I guarantee 95% will not be familiar with. So this stuff that's here, when I go to Slide Edit Master, can move. So if I don't like the location of this, I can move it up. And when I click out of the Edit Master, if I click, this whole background image as well as the title and directions, I can't touch. So the kids will not be able to edit this. They can't move it, they can't delete it, which I was having problems with before using this trick. Students would delete the background image and then they couldn't get it back. Or they delete the directions and not know what to do. Right, so Slide Edit Master is more powerful because if I realize I made a mistake in the directions, if this was an image that I uploaded as the background, I would have to go back to the original slide or completely redo the background that I want, save it as a new image, re-upload it, which is quite a bit. So I'm gonna go back to slide, edit master, and I could change the directions if I wanted to. I could say all blue boxes will be used once. So now if I go back out of it, that direction was added in here. Now, because I added more to the directions, this image is pretty close to them. So I could go back to slide, edit master, and drag this down a little bit. That way students would be able to add a box or a label to that one. So anything that I want the students to move, I do not put on the edit master. So these guys, I did not copy and paste, so they're still here, so that way they can still be dragged and moved to their correct locations. So now if I want to have the students answer any questions, I can put questions down at the bottom, and this would be a completed activity. Because I still have some space down here at the bottom, I might put all my drag and drop labels down here at the bottom, so that way they're not off to the side. But it's really up to you how you format this. So like I said, if I don't have a lot of room within the actual page, I will put all my drag and drop tiles on the side. And I like to add a header, so that way the students know that these are the drag and drop labels. So I'm gonna say drag and drop pieces. Now I don't want this to have the blue background, so I'm going to go up to my paint can and make it transparent. I don't want an outline to this, so I'm going to also make that transparent. And I'm going to use the same text header font, Luckiest Guy here, so that way it distinguishes these as the pieces that the students are going to use. So then I would add more pieces here for students. If I kept them off on the side, I could put this header over here off to the side. I could resize it so it's not so wide. And then I could then have all my pieces in a line over here on the side that the students could then pick from. So it's up to you how you actually format it. If you don't want to use the 8.5 by 11 size, I like to use it because let's say next year we are not in a hybrid remote learning situation. The students could then use this as a cut and paste activity where I have all these labels down here at the bottom. They could cut them out and then glue them onto the diagram. So I tend to like to use the 8.5 by 11 size. So hopefully this video helped you and gave you some ideas for how to make your own drag and drop activities within Google Slides. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe below, and hit that bell if you'd like to receive notifications about future videos. Thanks guys for watching. Have a great day.